3 months after losing everything, Adunni Bakare stood behind a small wooden table at Bear Market, ladling rice and stew into plastic containers for customers who paid 50 naira per portion. The woman who had once catered for governors and millionaires now survived by selling food from a rickety stall her mother had helped her set up. The morning sun was already harsh at 9 a.m., and sweat dripped from her forehead onto the makeshift counter. Her hands, once soft and manicured, were now rough from washing dishes and chopping vegetables. The gold jewelry was gone, sold months ago to pay for basic necessities. Even her expensive wristwatches had been sacrificed to keep food on the table. "Auntie, 1 rice and beans," called out a young student, extending a crumpled 50 naira note. Adunni served him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. This was her reality now. Serving individual portions for coins instead of managing multi-million naira contracts. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was still in the food business, just at the very bottom of the ladder she had once climbed so high. Her mother, Mama Bakare, worked beside her, managing the small charcoal stove and keeping track of their meager profits. The older woman had shown incredible strength during Adunni's darkest days, never once saying, "I told you so," or expressing disappointment in her daughter's fall from grace. "Adunni, go and buy more tomatoes from Mama Kuti's stall," her mother said, handing her a 1,000 naira note. "We're running low, and the lunch crowd will be here soon." Adunni took the money and walked through the bustling market. The familiar sounds and smells that had once inspired her culinary creativity now felt overwhelming. Every face seemed to look at her with pity or recognition. The fallen queen of catering, reduced to selling roadside food. As she approached Mama Kuti's vegetable stall, a familiar figure stepped into her path. Uncle Crazy. He looked exactly the same. Wild hair, tattered clothes, bare feet dusty from the market ground. But his eyes held that same sharp intensity she remembered from their first encounter months ago. "Sister," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of sympathy and knowing. "I see you have learned some hard lessons." Adunni stopped walking, her heart beginning to race. Seeing him brought back all the memories of that night in traffic, his strange warning, and everything that had happened since. "You," she whispered. "You knew this would happen." Uncle Crazy nodded slowly. "I told you, sister. You gave money to the wrong hands. Someone you trusted used your generosity for juju against you." "What are you talking about?" Adunni demanded, though part of her had been wondering about this possibility for weeks. "Juju. That's just superstition." Uncle Crazy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think your business just collapsed by accident. You think the food poisoning claims, the bank loan recall, the insurance cancellation. You think all of this happened by chance." Adunni stared at him, her mind racing. The sequence of events had been remarkably fast and coordinated, almost as if someone had orchestrated her downfall. "I see things others cannot see," Uncle Crazy continued. "I see the spiritual realm where money carries power, where intentions travel from hand to hand. When you give money with love, it blesses. But when someone takes your money and uses it for evil purposes, it becomes a weapon against you." "That's impossible," Adunni said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Uncle Crazy stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Think about everyone you gave money to in those months before your troubles began. Someone took your cash, money that carried your good intentions, and used it to pay for your destruction." Adunni's mind began racing through memories. She had given money to so many people in those final months before everything fell apart. Her assistant Kemi, her cousin Tund, her head chef Mama Sidikat, various beggars and staff members, even her own mother. "The betrayer is closest to your heart," Uncle Crazy said, watching her face carefully. "Someone who eats your food and sleeps under your roof. Someone who knows your daily movements, your business secrets, your weaknesses." "No," Adunni shook her head. "The people close to me would never." Jealousy is a powerful poison, sister. Success makes enemies even of those who smile in your face. With that cryptic statement, Uncle Crazy melted back into the crowd, leaving Adunni standing alone among the tomato sellers, her mind spinning with terrible possibilities. That evening, as she and her mother counted their meager daily earnings, Adunni couldn't stop thinking about Uncle Crazy's words. Someone close to her heart. Someone who ate her food and slept under her roof. The description could fit several people, but one person stood out, her mother. Mama Becaire had been the only family member living in her house regularly in those final months. She had eaten Adunni's food, slept in her guest room, and knew every detail of her business operations. And now, in their current situation, her mother seemed remarkably calm and accepting of their reduced circumstances. "Mama," Adunni said carefully, "in those last months before my business collapsed, did anyone ever ask you about my personal life? My business dealings?" Her mother looked up from counting the small bills. "What kind of question is that? Just answer me, please." "Well, your cousin Tund asked a few questions about your expansion plans. And Kemi sometimes wanted to know about your meetings and contracts. But that was normal. They worked with you." Adunni felt a chill run down her spine. What exactly did Kemi ask about? "Oh, when you would be traveling, which contracts were most important to you, things like that." She said she wanted to help coordinate your schedule better. But something in her mother's tone seemed off. There was a hesitation, a careful quality to her words that Adunni had never noticed before. "Mama, is there something you're not telling me?" Mama Becaire was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed deeply. "Adunni, there is something. But I didn't want to worry you with it." Adunni's heart began pounding. "What is it?" "A few weeks before your troubles started, I had a strange dream. In the dream, I saw you surrounded by enemies disguised as friends. There was darkness coming for you, and it was connected to your generosity. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were so happy, so successful. I thought it was just an old woman's fears." Her mother paused. "But there was something else. I saw you giving money to someone, and that person immediately took it to a dark place where your name was being used in evil ceremonies." Adunni stared at her mother in shock. "You think someone used juju against me?" "I think someone who knew you well enough to understand your kind heart used your own generosity as a weapon against you." That night, Adunni lay on the small mat in her mother's bedroom, staring at the ceiling and thinking. If Uncle Crazy was right, if someone had indeed used her money against her, then who could it be? Her mother's dream had shown her giving money to someone who immediately took it for evil purposes. But she had given money to many people in those final months. The next morning, Adunni decided to investigate. She would visit everyone she remembered giving cash to in the months before her downfall, starting with the most recent interactions. Her first stop was her cousin Tund's small electronics shop in Dugby. She found him arranging second-hand phones in a display case. "Adunni," he exclaimed when he saw her. "How are you managing? I heard about what happened." "I'm surviving," she replied. "Tund, I need to ask you something important. That money I gave you last year, the 20,000 naira for your business. What did you do with it?" Tund looked confused. "I used it to buy inventory, of course." "Why are you asking? Did you tell anyone that I had given you money? Did anyone ask you about my financial situation?" "Well," Tund hesitated. "Your assistant Kemi did ask me once if you had been helping family members financially. She said she was trying to budget for your charitable giving, to make sure it didn't interfere with business expenses." Another mention of Kemi. Adunni filed this information away and continued her investigation. Her next stop was to find Mama Sidikat, her former head chef. She tracked the older woman to a small restaurant where she now worked as a cook. "Madam Adunni," Mama Sidikat said sadly when she saw her, "I have been praying for you. Such terrible things that happened to our company. Mama Citycat, I need to ask you about something. Do you remember me giving you money for your grandchild's medical bills? Yes, ma. 5,000 naira. It helped pay for his medication. Did anyone else know about this? Did anyone ask you about the money I gave you? Mama Citycat nodded. Sister Kemi came to ask me about it. She said she was keeping records of all your charitable giving for tax purposes. She wanted to know exactly how much you had given me and when. Kemi again. A pattern was emerging that made Adunni increasingly uncomfortable. Her final stop was at her former office building, where she hoped to track down some of the other staff members she had helped financially. The security guard, Mr. James, was still working there. Madam Becaire, he said with genuine warmth. I heard about your troubles. I have been praying for you. Thank you, Mr. James. I need to ask you about the money I gave you for your medical bills. Did anyone else know about it? Yes, ma. Miss Kemi asked me about it. She said you wanted her to keep track of all the help you were giving to staff, so she could make sure no one was taking advantage of your kindness. The picture was becoming clearer, and it was deeply disturbing. Kemi had systematically tracked every instance of Adunni's hand-to-hand money giving. But why? That evening, Adunni confronted her mother with what she had learned. Mama, I think I know who betrayed me. She explained about Kemi's pattern of tracking her charitable giving, asking detailed questions about money transactions. But Adunni, her mother said gently, Kemi was your assistant. It might have been normal for her to track your expenses. Or, Adunni said, her voice hardening, she was gathering information for someone else. Someone who needed to know exactly how much money I was giving away and to whom. But even as she spoke, another thought was nagging at her. Her mother had known about her charitable giving too. Her mother had been present for many of the money exchanges. And her mother had mentioned having dreams about Adunni's troubles before they happened. What if the dream story was just a cover? What if her own mother had been the one feeding information to someone who wanted to destroy her? The thought was so painful that Adunni could barely breathe. But Uncle Crazy's words echoed in her mind. Someone who eats your food and sleeps under your roof. Mama, she said slowly, you said you had dreams about my troubles. But what if they weren't dreams? What if you knew something was going to happen to me? Her mother's face changed. What are you suggesting? I'm asking if you told anyone about my business dealings. If you gave information to people who might have used it against me. Adunni, you are my daughter. Why would I harm you? Maybe you didn't mean to harm me. Maybe someone convinced you to help them, and you didn't realize what would happen. Her mother stood up, her face flushed with anger. You think I betrayed you? You think your own mother would destroy your life? I don't know what to think anymore, Adunni shot back. All I know is that someone close to me used my own generosity against me, and you're the one who fits Uncle Crazy's description. Uncle Crazy, you're taking advice from a madman now. That madman predicted everything that happened to me. The argument escalated until Adunni, convinced that her mother was hiding something, stormed out of the house with her few belongings. She rented a tiny room in a crowded compound in Beer, barely large enough for a mattress and a small stove. Her savings from the food stall were quickly depleted, and she was forced to take odd jobs. Washing clothes, cleaning offices, anything that would put food on the table. The paranoia grew worse. She stopped giving money to anyone, even refusing to help a neighbor's sick child because she was terrified that any hand-to-hand money exchange would somehow be used against her. Weeks passed in this miserable state. Adunni had never felt so alone, so broken, so far from the confident businesswoman she had once been. Then, on a rainy Thursday evening as she walked home from a cleaning job, Uncle Crazy appeared beside her under a streetlight. Sister, he said gently, you have been punishing the wrong person. Adunni stopped walking. What do you mean? Your mother is innocent. The betrayer is not the one who eats your food and sleeps under your roof literally. It is the one who eats from your success and sleeps peacefully while planning your destruction. Then who is it? Uncle Crazy's eyes grew sad. The one who knew your business better than anyone. The one who had access to all your financial information. The one who could coordinate the timing of your troubles so perfectly. Kemi, a dunny whispered. Your assistant took the money you gave her, money blessed with your good intentions, and used it to pay a powerful Babalawo for your destruction. She was jealous of your success, tired of being in your shadow. But why? I treated her well, paid her generously. Sometimes the people closest to our success are the most bitter about it. She watched you rise higher and higher while she remained an assistant. Your kindness reminded her daily of her own limitations. Uncle Crazy stepped closer. The Babalawo she consulted is very powerful. He used your own money, money given from your hand to hers, to turn your generosity into a spiritual weapon. Every blessing you thought you were giving became a curse upon your own head. Adunni felt sick. How do you know all this? I see the spiritual realm, sister. I watched as she took your money straight from your hand to his shrine. I saw the ceremonies where your name was written on paper and burned with the very cash you had given her in kindness. Where is she now? Still in Ibadan. Still working, though not for you. The guilt is eating her alive, which is why you may be able to get the truth from her. Uncle Crazy began to fade back into the shadows. Confront her, sister. Get your confession. Then seek proper spiritual cleansing. And make peace with your mother. She has been crying for you every night since you left. The next morning, Adunni took the last of her savings and hired Okada to take her to the office building where Kemi now worked as an assistant to another business owner. She found Kemi at a desk in a small accounting firm, looking thinner and more haggard than Adunni remembered. Kemi, Adunni said quietly. The younger woman looked up and gasped. Madam, I didn't expect to see you. We need to talk. Privately. They went to a small restaurant nearby. Kemi's hands were shaking as she ordered tea. Kemi, Adunni said directly. I know what you did. The cup fell from Kemi's hands, shattering on the floor. Tea splashed across the table. I don't know what you mean, she whispered. You took the money I gave you and used it against me. You paid someone to destroy my business. Kemi's face crumpled. How? How did you find out? So it's true. For a long moment Kemi said nothing. Then, as if a dam had burst, the words poured out. I was so jealous, Ma. So angry. Everyone talked about your success, your generosity, your beautiful life. But what about me? I worked just as hard, I was just as smart, but I was always just Adunni's assistant. So you decided to destroy me. I didn't mean for it to go so far. Kemi cried. I just wanted you to fail a little, to come down from your high horse. I went to a Babalawo in Ibadan, and he said he could humble your pride. Using my own money. He said it would be more powerful that way. Money given from your hand to mine, then used in ceremonies against you. He said your own generosity would become your weakness. Adunni felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. Do you know what you did to me, Kemi? I lost everything. Everything. I know, Kemi sobbed. I've been living with the guilt every day. When I saw how completely your life fell apart, I realized I had unleashed something I couldn't control. The food poisoning claims, the bank loan recall, the insurance cancellation. Was that all part of the juju? The Babalawo said once the spiritual attack began, everything in your life would turn against you. Your enemies would multiply, your friends would abandon you, your own success would become your downfall. Adunni sat back in her chair, overwhelmed by the confirmation of her worst fears. What did you pay him? 50,000 naira total. 20,000 from the money you gave me for my mother's surgery, and 30,000 I saved from my salary. So you not only betrayed me, you lied about your mother being sick? Kemi nodded miserably. There was no surgery. I just needed an excuse to ask for money that you would give willingly, from your hand to mine. Adani stood up. Kemi, I hope you can live with what you've done. But this conversation is over. Madam, please. Is there anything I can do to fix this? I'll pay you back. You can't give me back my reputation, my business, my peace of mind. You can't undo the spiritual damage you've caused. Adani left Kemi crying in the restaurant and took another Okada to find the Babalawo who had orchestrated her destruction. Uncle Crazy had given her directions to his compound. She found the traditional healer in a small shrine surrounded by carved figures and burning incense. He was an elderly man with ritual scarifications on his face and arms heavy with beaded bracelets. I know why you have come, he said before she could speak. The young woman's guilt has been disturbing the spiritual balance. She was not prepared for the full consequences of what she requested. Can you undo what you did to me? The damage can be cleansed, but it requires specific rituals. And you must understand. I did not force your assistant to betray you. I simply used the spiritual power she brought to me. What spiritual power? Money given in love carries tremendous positive energy. When that same money is used for harmful purposes, the spiritual backlash is equally powerful. Your assistant corrupted your own generosity and turned it into a weapon against you. The Babalawo explained the cleansing rituals that would be required. Ceremonies to break the spiritual attacks, offerings to restore balance, and specific procedures to protect her from future spiritual manipulation. But understand this, he warned. The cleansing will only remove the artificial obstacles that were placed in your path. Rebuilding your life will still require hard work, wisdom, and time. Adani agreed to the cleansing ceremonies. Over the next several days, she participated in rituals designed to break every spiritual chain that had been forged against her success. The process was exhausting and emotionally draining, but by the end, she felt lighter than she had in months. The constant sense of impending doom that had followed her since her business collapsed was finally gone. Her first stop after the cleansing was her mother's house. Mama Becaire opened the door with tears in her eyes. My daughter, you have come home. Mama, I'm so sorry. I accused you of betraying me when you were the only one who remained loyal. They embraced and cried together. Adani explained everything she had learned about Kemi's treachery and the spiritual attacks against her business. I knew something unnatural was happening to you, her mother said. No one's life falls apart that quickly without spiritual interference. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted you. You were confused and hurting. I understand. Over the following weeks, Adani slowly began rebuilding her life. She returned to working at the food stall with her mother, but now she approached the business differently. She started accepting mobile money payments from customers, teaching them how to use the digital platforms instead of handling cash directly. When people needed financial help, she transferred money to their bank accounts rather than giving cash hand to hand. The changes seemed small, but Adani noticed that her luck began improving. Customers returned more frequently. Word-of-mouth recommendations increased, and small opportunities for growth began presenting themselves. One evening, as she was closing the stall, Uncle Crazy appeared one final time. Sister, he said with a smile, you have learned the lesson. Uncle Crazy, thank you. If you hadn't warned me, I might never have figured out what was really happening. I warned you because I could see the spiritual attack being prepared against you. But you had to discover the truth for yourself. Will I see you again? Uncle Crazy shook his head. My work with you is finished. You now understand that generosity must be balanced with wisdom. You can still help people, still bless others with your success, but you must protect yourself spiritually. How? Never give money hand to hand when you sense jealousy or hidden motives. Use electronic transfers, checks, or other methods that don't carry your direct spiritual energy. And always pay attention to the warnings that come from unexpected sources. As Uncle Crazy disappeared into the evening crowd for the last time, Adunni realized that her greatest lesson hadn't been about money or business or even betrayal. It had been about the delicate balance between generosity and wisdom, between helping others and protecting yourself, between trusting people and recognizing that trust must be earned and maintained. 6 months later, Adunni had saved enough money to rent a small restaurant space. She hired 2 employees and began offering catering services for small events. Her reputation was slowly being rebuilt, one satisfied customer at a time. The government contract that had been postponed during her troubles was eventually awarded to another company, but Adunni discovered that she no longer needed such massive deals to feel successful. She had learned to find satisfaction in steady growth, honest work, and the knowledge that her generosity was now protected by wisdom. Most importantly, she had learned that the most dangerous enemies are often those who smile in your face while plotting your destruction, and that sometimes the most important warnings come from the most unlikely messengers. Uncle Crazy had saved her from far worse than financial ruin. He had saved her from a lifetime of blind trust and spiritual vulnerability. And in the end, that lesson was worth more than any catering contract could ever be. When people asked her about her dramatic fall and gradual rise, Adunni would simply say, "I learned to listen to warnings, even from madmen." Sometimes the person everyone thinks is crazy is the only one telling the truth. She never gave money hand to hand again. And she never regretted that decision. The lesson of Uncle Crazy had been learned, integrated, and would be passed on to others who might need to hear it. In a world where betrayal often comes from those closest to us, sometimes a madman's wisdom is the sanest thing we can follow.